All right, well, we're going to go ahead and get started. We want to be respectful of everybody's time. My name is Dr. Adam Clark. I'm the superintendent here in the Mount Diablo Unified School District. And we know that everyone is dealing with the effects of COVID-19 in their own ways, but we wanted to offer an additional series of support systems for families, for students, and for community members. So this is actually our third webinar so far. I really want to thank Ms. Roberts and her team for always being just able and willing to jump to the front of the line to see how they can continue to support students, families, and staff. So tonight we actually have a special title. This is Parent Wellness and Self-Care. So we know oftentimes we talk about our students, but you know, we have to put that on the airplane. We have to put that mask on our face first before we you know, put it on our children. And I know that's harder said than done. But tonight we're going to give it a shot. So without any further ado, I want to introduce Stephanie Roberts, and she will lead this wonderful panel tonight. So thank you all for joining.
Thank you, Dr. Clark. So welcome, everyone. My name is, as Dr. Clark said, Stephanie Roberts. I'm the Director of Partnerships and Multi-Tiered Systems of Support in the district, and also the co-facilitator of these amazing mental health webinars. Just so we know for the panelists, can you in the chat, if you are participating live, just go ahead and put your, are you a student, a parent, a staff member, letting us know who's kind of in the Zoom with us today. I'm going to give a little bit of housekeeping. We will have simultaneous translation, so there should be a little thing at the bottom where you can click to join. Please feel free to do that. And then we will be monitoring the chat. So I will be asking about 6 questions tonight to the panelists. And then in between those questions, we'll check in with the chat to see if there's any questions or things that people would like to know more about. We have an amazing panel tonight. We have staff as well as 4 parents. I think you're going to be very appreciative of the guidance and the stories that you're going to hear tonight. And we're here to support you. So we want to let you know that in addition to tonight, as Dr. Clark mentioned, we've had 3 mental health webinars so far. We actually have 6 more left until the end of the school year. One at the end of this month, that is March 30th, for recognizing when to get help beyond the home. April 20th is around anxiety and depression. May 11th is parents of teens and tweens and how to facilitate independence when they can't leave the house. And June 1st, we have parents of elementary age. What skills can we increase during distance learning or hybrid learning? And then finally, at the end of June is on June 22nd, finding community supports and summer activities. So we will be gathering questions ongoing. There is a link underneath the student services page under counseling and webinar, as well as a little easier, go to the parent portal and there's a link to the webinar series. And we are gathering questions each evening, as well as on the district website, so that we come answering the questions that you guys out there are asking. So it looks like we've got a variety of parents and staff, and I think I even saw a couple of students in there. So we're going to get started. I'm going to have each of the panelists first introduce themselves, and then the way the evening goes is I will ask a question, a few of the panelists will answer, and then we'll keep moving on. We will be very succinct and we will be done at 6:15, but we're excited to have you here live. And if you're joining us later and watching it virtually, we're happy to have you. So why don't we start with Sissy, if you can introduce yourself, and then we'll continue on with the panelists.
Thank you. Of course. My name is Sissy White, and I am the counselor at Bel Air Elementary School in Bay Point.
My name is Shauna Puman, and I am the high school counselor at Mount Diablo High School.
My name is Mary Phelan. I'm the counselor at Foothill Middle School.
Good evening. My name is Tatum Stockard, and I am the counselor at Ignacio Valley High School.
Hello, my name is Kimber Kaiser, and I am the counselor at Wren Avenue, Woodside, Wyvie, and I support the entire district. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Rochelle Johnson, and I'm a parent of a budding teenager at College Park High School.
Good evening. My name is Dorcas Craig, and I'm the grandmother of a fourth grader at Bear Air and Mount Diablo, excuse me, and what is it? Help me, Sissy.
You're the grandmother of a fourth grader at Bel Air.
Okay, just at Bel Air. Okay.
Yeah.
And hi, I'm Natalie Ivankovich. I'm the parent of a fourth grader at Valley Verde Elementary. I'm also the vice chair of the CAC, which is the Community Advisory Committee, that a parent group that advises the special ed department at Mount Diablo.
Alita Asiano. I am a parent of a middle schooler at Sequoia Middle and a first grader at Westwood and a toddler who is Oliver assistant throughout our days and nights.
Great, thank you. Felicia, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Felicia Stuckey Smith, Director of Student Services for 30,000 students.
And then finally, Wendy.
Hello, I'm Wendy Gilly, and I work with the district with student services and special education programs.
Thank you. So now everyone knows who's in the room with us, or Zoom, as I often say. We're going to get to going straight into the questions. So our first question will be answered by Mary, Tatum, Rochelle, and Dorcas in that order. The first question is, how do you engage in self-care when you are parenting and supporting distance and/or hybrid learning? Mary?
Well, first, I wanted to define what self-care is. And self-care is the act of attending to one's physical and mental health. There are different kinds of self-care, and physical self-care is referred to making sure you've had enough rest, you're eating healthy, you're eating healthy foods, you're drinking enough water, and you're getting enough exercise. And this is more to do than just, doing your New Year's resolutions. This is about your daily taking care of yourself and being smart and being smart every day about being healthy. Then there's the emotional self-care, and that's the self-care of acknowledging your feelings and working through them and sharing your thoughts with others. Or you could even be writing down these thoughts and, being thoughtful about how you're, just being real thoughtful about and be acknowledging your feelings and not trying to shove them away and put them aside. Your relational self-care. This taps into your sense of social well-being, which is really hard right now in the sense of now that we're in this pandemic and we're not being connected with people as much as we used to be. And when this is when we're in contact with others and people that we care about. This helps us get our burdens lighter, and the challenge that we're facing can be put into perspective. And then it's also our cognitive self-care. That's also, and as adults, we ignore this, and this is about that we must continue to learn and grow. And then also our spiritual self-care. This is the type of self-care that broadens our sense of relations and with the rest of the world. And this is your spiritual self-care that may involve meditation or prayer. And so for some of us is the being connected with nature. Tatum?
Thank you, Mary. So I'd like to share a demonstration and actually ask if the panelists and the parents and everyone participating tonight would partake in a little activity. I'm focusing on energy work. There is a individual who has a practice. Her name's Junia Chow, and she has a practice in Fremont, and she's presented in the area at workshops. And so one thing that I learned from Junia, she has the agency of Cycles of Awakening. And she really focuses on getting rid of any negative energy that we may be holding from the day. So it's something really simple that I'd like to do with our group tonight. So basically, we're going to take our left hand and go over towards the right eyebrow and just press the right eyebrow and just kind of press through the temple and around the ear and back down to the neck. Just kind of push on your muscles there. We're pushing out this negative energy that we may be holding. Go down to your shoulder, and then we're going to squeeze this energy out of our arm and down our wrist to our fingers, and then pull it out and shake it off. Okay? Now we're going to do the other side. Take your right hand, cross over to the opposite eyebrow, and press on the eyebrow. Pull that energy down your temple behind your ear, all the way down to the neck. Pull it through the shoulder. Grab a hold of your arm. Start squeezing that negative energy out. Pull it through your forearm, your wrist, and your hand, and pull it out and shake it off. So that's one activity we can do to filter out some of any type of hardships or any, just something simple, inexpensive we can do while we're making pasta, while you're boiling the pasta and warming up the sauce. Okay.
Thank you, Tatum.
Sure.
And we will be putting in links into the chat as well. It's already actually on the district website of parent resources for self-care, and some of those links around demonstrations that Tatum has shared. And we'll continue to add those. So thank you very much. And I believe somebody just put it in the chat as well. Thank you, Kimber. Rochelle, do you want to add to that question? How do you engage in self-care when you are parenting and supporting distance and or hybrid learning?
Excuse me. Right now, the way that it has looked for me is remembering that I was a whole grown-up person when I met my kid, and tapping into what it is that brings me joy. Mm-hmm. And with that, I also remembered I made the choice that when my 15-year-old went to preschool, I worked at the preschool, and I found that I was overwhelmed, sensory overload with little people all day. Loved what I did, but by the end of the day, I just needed my brain to shut off. I needed 1 hour of looking at my toes, texting a friend. And so some of it is just for me, it looks like giving myself permission to tap into who I was as an individual, as an adult. And now what it looks like is I can certainly tap into remembering who I was before I became a parent, but that woman has grown, and understanding that who I am now is still different than who I was before. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I'm looking at for parents with older children is there's this sweet spot, right? So there's helping them with hybrid learning, helping them to cope with the challenges that there are that we don't have any experience with. And at the same time, acknowledging that we're also helping to get them ready to take on their next journey, which both places require a set amount of growth, require some autonomy and some experience. And as I'm watching my own kid do this struggle, and I was challenged with how, am I supposed to be disciplining her? What am I supposed to be doing? And it settled on me that for me and for her, I needed to give her some compassion. That compassion needed to be exercised. I started to think about what it must be like for a caterpillar to go into a cocoon, and what that experience must be like when it's time to come out, that it cannot be comfortable, that there must be some discomfort, if not pain. And so as our children are making the transitions under normal circumstances, and then you throw in a pandemic, what must that feel like as they're growing and getting ready to sprout wings? And so it must be uncomfortable as they are figuring out, how do I do this? How do I create distance from my family in this way and learn how to be independent on my own? And so the more I'm able to give my kid the stability of boundaries with compassion, and to give myself compassion as I get ready to be an empty nester, then that gives me freedom and comfort. That is the self-care for me, that I'm not holding this thing so tightly and I'm not giving her room to grow. So if I'm giving her room to grow and I'm sewing into the reality that I am a woman, I'm an individual, I'm a professional, I'm a coach for me and for her, then that gives some autonomy for both of us. And so I think that that is it. We're not tethered to one another. And we're watching these people become. And how amazing is that, just to watch them become.
Thank you, Rochelle. Dorcas, would you mind adding to that and sharing your story?
Sure. I actually wasn't a part of my grandson's, well, I was a part of his life, but not his schooling. And he was living with his mother, but he was getting suspended more times than he was actually in school. And his mother couldn't control him. And so finally she said to the school, why don't you call his noni? She's the only person that he'll listen to. So the teacher called me, and sure enough, he listened to me and did what he was supposed to do. And so the school quickly found out, hey, this is the person we need to call when we have problems with him. And so the counselor, Miss Sissy White, and his teacher started calling me when they were having problems. And so I figured out that I didn't know he had any issues going on. So when I found out there was issues and we started going to meetings and things of that nature, I was able to talk to the teacher, found out that he was in 2nd grade, but he was at a below kindergarten reading level. And I was able to talk to the teacher, and she was able to tutor him. And now he's at like an 8th grade reading level. So when the pandemic hit, he was in that teacher's classroom. And so we had a good rapport, and he went to the 3rd grade, but he still had the same teacher. The teacher moved up with him as well. So we still had the same teacher, which was great. But then he wound up going to the 4th grade. He got a new teacher. And so he was still in that pandemic. And then it got to a point where now it's a new teacher. I don't have that same rapport with this new teacher. And so I'm left with my grandson being at my house because his mom wouldn't quit her job and there was no help for him. And I knew he wasn't getting his work in. And so I said, well, why don't you let him come live with me? And once he came to live with me, I was like, oh, I haven't been in school in umpteen years and I have no idea how to help him. So I called my son and I was like, you're going to have to quit your job and you're going to have to come over here and stay with us and help your son. Or I'm going to have to send him back to his mom's house. And my son's like, no, absolutely, you're not going to do that. So my son quit his job, came and moved in with us. And because my husband and I were empty nesters. So now we have 3 generations living under our roof now. And luckily for me, I was already in some type of counseling therapy. So I was able to talk to my therapist about what was going on, which was helpful for me. And it actually helped my son too, because he wasn't used to having his son all the time. He was used to having him on weekends. That was fun days for him. And so when his interaction, it was fun time. He got to bring him back to his mom's house. But now he's with him every day, losing his temper, yelling at him all the time. And I'm just like, so I'm talking to my counselor about it, and my counselor's giving me information and so on and so forth. So I'm able to translate this information to my son, and I'm watching a miracle happen before my eyes because he's able to self-care through me, through my counseling I'm receiving. And so I'm now hearing my son talking to his son. I'm now hearing my son actually caring about what his son is doing and how his son actually feels. And I'm also seeing that 3 generations can get along and work together and raise this one child. And when they say it takes a village to raise a child, it's true. So it's taken us 3 generations together to to raise this young man. And I see so many people they like, well, I don't have any family that helped me out. Did you ask your family if they'll help you? Did you ask your mom if she helped? No, I know she's gonna say no, but did you ask her? So many people are afraid to ask for help, especially when it's your family. You have to reach out and ask your family for help. So my son is able to still go out with his friends or go to his girlfriend's house for a weekend because he's able to ask me, Mom, do you mind watching, my grandson? And I'll say, sure. Even though he knows that maybe I don't want to, but I know that he needs that time away. And then there's times that he'll take him with him for a weekend because he knows I need that time away. So I want to urge individuals to reach out to their friends or family. You may only need to take a 5-minute walk, a 10-minute walk, just to get away, just to go have a little drink away with a friend or something. Reach out to your family and your friends to get someone to help you out. And that's all it takes.
Thank you so much, Dorcas, for
You're
sharing
welcome.
your story. Okay, so Felicia, just a check-in on the chats. Anything that we want to add or address?
We're good.
We're good. And then for the panel, is there any last minute thoughts about that particular question? Okay, so we're going to move to the second question. What strategies, and this is going to be Sissy, Kimber, Shauna, and Rochelle. What strategies help parents prioritize their self-care? As we already heard, it's important to focus on it, but how do we prioritize that self-care? Sissy?
Well, bear with me because there is going to be a little overlap, but we all have a different twist on things. And so the first thing I want to say is basically the same thing that Dr. Clark said. What I always tell people is you have to put the oxygen mask on yourself first, because if we are not giving ourselves what we need first, then we don't have the energy, the resilience, and the stamina to deal with what may come up for the day or deal with it with the right attitude, because we didn't focus on ourselves first. The second thing is in that really owning that you are important and you matter, and taking care of you is not selfish. Not taking care of you is teaching people around you to be selfish, because they're being trained to be takers, to take all the opportunity, to take all the air, to take all the energy, and not understand that you need that space. So it's up to us to train people how to treat us, right? And know that, hey, I matter, but I don't just matter for that reason only. I also matter because my very existence has a purpose, right? And if for me to live that out, that goes back to the number one, putting, oxygen masks, and really owning that. The last thing is every day, figure out what it is that you need to be at your best. So for example, for me, I know I'm not a night person. So if you're asking me to be at my best past 9 o'clock, that's probably not going to happen. But can I get up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning and be energized and connect with you and all of that? I can do that. What else do I need? I need my cup of coffee. I just need 1 cup, but that's what I need, right? You might need something different. You might need to get up and exercise or do yoga. You might need to do mindfulness, whatever it is that you need so that you can present yourself with the best attitude for when things come up. Give yourself grace and permission to do that, and teach your children, hey, guess what? There's going to be mommy or mommy, daddy, or guardian and kid time. There's going to be, just kid time. There's also going to be just mommy or daddy or guardian time, so that they know when you're taking that time away, that's your boundary, that's your space, and they're not knocking on the door while you're playing your music or having your candles on, and they know that that's your time. Right. So that's all I wanted to share.
Thank you so much, Sissy.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Sissy. And I'm going to share a little bit more related. I have a 4-month-old and a newly turning 3-year-old this month. So one of the things I have to balance is being everything to everyone, so I have to pull myself back at times because those of you that know me well know I'm an overachiever. And so really taking that step to look at, what do I need to take care of myself? So where are my basic needs? I know that I need to drink more water when I'm not going to the bathroom, and that's like, listen to our bodies. I mean, that's something that we as parents forget to do. So along those lines, I've had to take a step back of letting myself have grace that I can't get everything done in the same day. I have a messier house than I'd like. You know what? People aren't coming over. So there's the benefit in that. My whole pregnancy was challenging because it was during, it's been during a pandemic. And the reality is I've had to look for where I can build in the support. So whether that's, okay, can I go for a walk when I'm on a campus, just for a few minutes, checking in with the staff that I know there, even if it's playing on my phone for a few minutes, but looking at where can I take a break and give that to myself. Like Sissy, I need to have a little bit of caffeine, and that does help me in the morning, but I'm a night owl, so I can get up. But if you don't know yourself and take that time just to find out what's something that you can make a priority for yourself as a parent or a guardian, you are doing the hardest job on the planet, taking care of a living human being that you are fully responsible for, and you're not getting a lot of breaks. So where can we build those breaks in? Mentally, physically, taking care of ourselves, and again, giving yourself that grace that it's okay to not get everything done. And we're not perfect, and we are doing the best that we can. And please give yourself a hug. Thank you.
Thank you, Kimber.
Thanks, Kimber. So I want to talk about how we prioritize and think about, we prioritize work and getting kids on Zoom and getting them fed, but we also need to fit in the self-care, just like those things. So that might mean that you literally put it on your calendar. Like, today I'm going to exercise, and I'm going to exercise at 4 o'clock, and you put it right into your paper calendar, your phone calendar, whatever it is, but you're putting that in just like any other thing. Also, I think you should talk to your spouse. If you have a spouse, you guys can share this responsibility. You have my back today, I have your back tomorrow, and realize that everybody needs that time, and not to guilt each other, because that will make you be a happier person at home. If you have older teenagers, see if they can help, or, don't feel bad if you have to put them on the iPad for a little bit because they zone out, and then go in the backyard and get some sun and do what you have to do to decompress.
Yeah.
So other ideas is, exercising outside, walking, running. I like the YouTubes. I do a lot of yoga at night when the girls are in the bedroom. I get out the yoga on YouTube, and that's a good release. I had a great conversation with a friend yesterday. It really lifted me. So that those close friendships that warm your heart, reach out. I'm sure they'll be happy that you reached out as well. Reading, a book for pleasure, whatever it is for you that will help you. And if you don't know, it's time to experiment.
Excellent. Thank you, Shauna. As Rochelle takes her drink, I've put her on the spot. Rochelle, do you want to close up that question? What are your thoughts on here?
I do. And actually, again, I go back to just having an older kid and knowing that she's plotting her plan for the next bit of her journey. And so some of what we're doing is modeling, right? And so if we're modeling self-care, then our children get to see examples of self-care. If we're modeling the opposite of self-care, our children get to see that too. And they may not always listen to what we do, but boy, oh boy, they pick up on what we do and how to do it. And for me, modeling looked like setting some goals that had nothing to do with anybody younger than me. And some of it was about my friendships. Some friendships that when I had a little, it was hard for me to sew into and to be a friend. There were many people who were helping me because I was a single mom with a little person. and is the diaper supposed to look like that? You know, like I didn't know. And so now I get to be a friend and I get to be supportive. And now we get to just be girls. You want to just go for a walk? You want to grab coffee? You want to go for cocktails?
Yep.
And there are some silver linings to COVID, right? So some, hey, let's do a walk up. I saw a bar where you can get a bevy and just kind of go walk outside. That's a cool thing. And this is just about girlfriend time, you know, finding that sows into you and modeling how to be friends, you know, what does that mean and how do we engage in behaviors that encourage one another, that support one another, that celebrate accomplishments, that discourage, girl, I don't know if you want to do that. And my daughter sees that. She sees what friendship looks like. She sees me interacting with my sisters and in a different way. So I'm modeling with that. The other piece is setting goals, setting short and long-term goals, because what I'm asking her to do is to start thinking about scholarship, thinking about college. Does it look like the local JC? Does it look like a four-year institution? What happens after college? You keep telling me you want to be a lawyer. Do you know what Esquire means? You know, so let's start having those goals. So one of the things that I did just to model student behavior, I've been an avid yoga practitioner forever. I became a yoga teacher, I became a yoga teacher. So with that meant I was in school where? In my house.
Right.
Because she got to watch me be a student. And truthfully, my kid walked up to me while I was on Zoom, listening, taking notes, and she was trying to have a conversation. I was like, hey, I'm learning here. My kid, who goes to our school, said, "You're the only person I know who goes to class and pays attention." Right? So, but this was an opportunity for her to see it done differently, right? Because what's happening for her and her experience is many of her peers, you know, you got to be cool. We in high school, man, you sit in the back. And if you can't sit in the back, what do? You turn off your camera and you make it seem like you're not paying attention, right? And so showing her like there's a different way to approach school and saying, but I actually want to get something out of it. The teacher has something that I want. And I don't know that I'll teach, you know. I've said for years that I want to be a yoga teacher in retirement. So for me, showing her, if I say I want to be a yoga teacher, I want to be able to facilitate yoga retreats, I need to start doing that stuff now. I need to not become a yoga teacher when I'm ready to do those things. Because if you pay to go to a retreat, you want your yoga teacher to be experienced and good. You don't want them to pull out the paper and go, I think you should do a downward dog here and maybe breathe, right? Like you want your person to be experienced. So showing her what is your plan? What is your 1 year plan? What is your 5-year plan? Are you thinking 10 years ahead? Let's start talking about if you say that you have a plan that involves resources, money, time, talents, how do you secure those things so that you're sowing into you? When we're looking at relationships, how are we making sure that the relationships that we are sowing into are mutually beneficial? Are people continually asking of us and draining of us and taking those resources? How are we making sure that, for me, that's where showing her openly my friendships comes into play, that I model that I help her to see that this is what it looks like and this is how we can strategize for that. Now,
yeah,
the families from the South, old school, grown folks business, but you still have an opportunity to teach and train and show.
Excellent, Rochelle. I love how you're talking about modeling. And that's a great check in with the panel. Is there any last minute thoughts about that question? And then we'll go to the chat. Okay, Felicia, do we have any comments in the chat or questions?
Quite a bit of compliments to the panel.
Yay.
Of the examples that are being used and resources that are being used. But we do invite our listeners to participate in a way of asking questions, and we would be more than happy to respond.
Thank you so much. Okay, so we're going to go into our third question, and this will be Mary, Shauna, and Natalie. And that question is, what does parenting and self-care during a pandemic look like?
So parenting and self-care during a pandemic sounds like an oxymoron, but they do not go together, but self-care could not be more important. And, you know, actually, I'm going to talk about modeling. So, you know, we cannot emphasize it enough. It's a struggle to find time, and our support systems have been taken away. So, you know, we used to use them to practice self-care. You used to kind of say, hey, can you watch my kids for a little bit so I can do some self-care, and then I'll watch your kids so you can do some self-care. But now during a pandemic, you know, we have to kind of like, you know, we're self-isolating. So we have to make some changes and do things differently. So as parents, we need to model creative new ways to create our systems of self-care and develop new practices for our children, and to carve out time to practice self-care. Parents need to make it a priority to take care of themselves. And by doing this, we help take care of our children. And we need to explain to our children what we are doing and why. And this is a way we model self-care. And hopefully this brings a habit of self-care to our home. And hopefully this develops a model of self-care that our children will learn to participate in and use for the future for themselves.
Thank you.
Shauna?
Thanks, Mary. So we have to remember that most of us have never, ever gone through anything like this before. I mean, the last time was, you know, in 1918. So we have to remember this is the hardest times of possibly our kids' life, and maybe some of us, you know, the adults' life too. And we have to give ourselves grace and, you know, just keep saying, I'm doing the best that I can right now. Those expectations you set for yourself a year ago of all the things you wanted to do, it's okay. Let it go. Put it on the back burner. At this time, it's about what you think you can do today. And it's okay if it's not everything you imagined. This has jolted our world. I mean, every single person has affected by this, and that's very unique. So I encourage family meetings especially when you see your kids acting out, and I'm sure all of us have, give them that space to explain how they're feeling, what it's like for them, and try not to use judgment, more about empathy and validating. And I know it's hard sometimes because we're parents, we're going to react, we're going to, you know, lose our composure, but you can gain it back again, right? And it's just important to hear what they're going through, because they need to figure out their own self-care too. We have to figure out, okay, what is that for them? Like for my kids, they want ice cream. They want boba tea. So we go do those little things on the weekends. Also, just creating a schedule, like a daily schedule in the house, because routine is super important. You know, when they have class, and then, okay, here's game time, here's dinner time. I think that routine really helps. And I think when you see that they're doing better, it's going to lighten your load, right? And if you're still struggling with the behavioral or academic, please reach out to their school counselor for guidance. You know, you can set up teacher meetings, parent meetings with the counselor. So thank you.
Thank you, Shauna. Natalie, would you like to add to that?
Sure. So for me, and just sharing my experience, self-care is not glamorous over at my house. And I guess, you know, what I realized and what I took for granted and what I appreciate is that a lot of self-care that I did pre-pandemic involved all the things we can't do, like going to the movies or going out to eat with friends, being, you know, with others. And so I really kind of had to take stock and simplify things like we all have. And I really had to look inward and say, you know, what really makes me happy? What do I love doing? And while I do love my family, there has been a lot of togetherness in our home. And what I have realized and what I value is some space alone, as I'm sure all of you guys can relate to. And I really appreciate kind of how Mary earlier on broke down the different kinds of self-care, the emotional and the physical. And it really made me realize that both of those are very connected for me. And what I try to get the most bang for my buck is when I can do both of those at the same time. So I have really made it a priority to go for walks. The iPad is wonderful. I have kids that are 12 and 10, and if you put them on there, they're focused. So I can at least get, you know, a half an hour, 45-minute walk in. I also use that time, I, you know, put music on and I rock out as I walk. Music totally fills me with joy, and really can change my state of mind instantly. I also take that time, like Shauna said, to connect with friends that have, you know, I have conversations, wonderful conversations with them as I walk, and really it fills my cup. So, you know, I almost forget that I'm walking. So, you know, you can look on your iPhone and see your steps, and all of a sudden I'm at like 8,000 steps, and it feels like no time has passed, and I can walk back into my house feeling filled either with music or love from friends and family. You know, and sometimes you can't get away from your kids. So how do you create space when your kids are still there? And it took a couple tries, but we did some bike rides where I brought my speaker and blasted my music, and my kids sang along with me. They didn't fight. They didn't talk to me, so I still felt alone. I felt my music, and I got some exercise too. So, you know, just like Shauna said, experiment. And there's a way to make that happen with or without your kids. So.
Thank you. I love all of the examples you guys are giving. I think our audience is like probably for fast writing things down, coming up with ideas, are going to put a replay. And I see that my friend Dorcas is going to add to that. I would love her to add to it.
Yeah, I just wanted to attest to the comment about being able to call the counselors at the school, because I've called and communicated with Miss Sissy White plenty of times, and she's always been a huge help with me and my family, and she's always kept in contact even over the summer. So whenever I had a need for anything, she always responded and was able to help me and my son. So I know that to be true. So I want to encourage any parent that needs any help, that it is true that the counselors will help you out.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so please reach out.
And if you're not sure who to reach out to, some schools have more time of a counselor than others. So if you go to the parent portal, there is a link to elementary counseling and secondary counseling. On that document by school, you will see a name that you can contact. That will get you to at least somebody at the school, whether it's a school counselor. But you also, you know, as parents, we also know that sometimes there's another person on campus that you really connect to, a particular teacher, a parent liaison, the principal. So if it's not the counselor, find somebody that you want to connect with, because we will connect you with the resources. We're very fortunate to have the school counselors and other mental health professionals in the district, and we will try to figure out how we can support you in that arena. But thank you very much. For the panel, any other last minute comments about this particular question before we go to the chat?
Can I tag on to Natalie real quick?
Yeah.
Music is awesome. 80s hip hop is amazing. Another resource is audiobooks. Yes. So for those of us who pre-parenting,
we enjoyed reading, but now our brains are so splintered all over the place. Lovely stories happen at 6 o'clock in the morning. And some people might think I'm insane because I'm laughing or, because of the story that's in my ear. But that is another way for me to continue to be me, because I think we have said multiple times, if we fill our cups, then we actually have something to give. If we put the mask on ourselves, then we can actually be resourceful and supportive. And I the one quickie that I would add is being honest. That crap, kid, this is a pandemic. I got nothing. I don't know. I don't know. We're gonna figure it out. We can't go to the movies, run to the bookstore, swing by the library, let's go to dinner. Nope, can't do that. What we can do is we can find some food and make a recipe. And if we screw up, we can have sandwiches for dinner and laugh about it later. That's what we can do. So let's just be honest. There is no one best way. There is no perfect way. There is at my house, we're Johnson. So we're the Johnson girls. So it's, hey, what's the Johnson girls way today? Tomorrow it might look different. And so we need to give ourselves room to perfect this, to break it again, to put it back together. Mosaics are beautiful, and that's what we can make. But I think every day, no two salads are ever the same. Have you ever tried to duplicate a salad that you made? You can't. You can't. You put the same ingredients, they come out a little bit different. So pandemic, we've not done this before, and it is my hope and prayer that we don't ever have to do this again. That we don't. Yeah. So so just being really honest with the kids and saying, we're doing this together. And how we come out on the other side is how we come out on the other side. And I'm scared. Right. You can be scared and I can be scared, and we can be hopeful, and we can look to what can be created. What can we create when we have nothing? Where can we find the silver linings? Because there are little things that would not have happened had there not been a pandemic. It is a pain in the butt. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. But there are some things that have come out of this that just would not have happened. And there are really good opportunities. So highlighting those, looking at the reality of the challenges, and together, if I lean on you a little and you lean on me, we're stronger. Right. And how do we move forward? How do we lean on each other and come out on the other side? Yes. And just having that honesty so that kids know that when they're scared, when they don't quite succeed, it's all right. It's all right. You haven't disappointed anybody. You didn't know how to do this yesterday, so let's figure it out.
Well, thank you so much. And I'm looking at the time and it's 5:53. I cannot believe how fast this evening has gone. So we've got 3 more questions that we want to get to. Felicia, is there anything in the chat that we need to address at this point in time before I move to the 4th question?
I was going to defer to Wendy.
My notes only are thankful to everyone for sharing their personal stories. And I will say that every half of the people on this panel are parents, just like our people watching. And I think that takes a lot of courage. Yeah. And even our staff are sharing their own personal stories. And that is really hard. So thank you. And it's well regarded and respected by the people out there. And I know some of us wear 2 hats, so that's good. And also there's 2 really sort of main themes that are coming up. Well, 3 now. One is we need more counselors. That's always a common theme. And certainly we're trying to put our little patchwork together of our mental health therapists and our counselors and our psychologists and all of those things to make sure our kids are supported. And from our departments, one of the things is really trying to work together past the pandemic and looking forward to doing that. And then another comment that was made is, where do people find support when they genuinely are alone? They do not have family and friends nearby. They can call just for that 5-minute, hey, I need to just walk out of the house or scream in the backyard, right? And so are there any resources available for that?
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I would just echo what I think Wendy's sharing and what we're hearing in the chat. The power of school personnel and parents and guardians working together is truly the only way that we're going to be able to work through this. And I mean, just hearing both sides of staff as well as our parents, I am just thoroughly impressed and grateful that we have this partnership together, and know that if we continue to work moving forward, we're going to be able to get through this, and we're going to build a stronger partnership that's going to better serve our communities and our students. And so this is really, really touches my heart tonight to see that this is, this is moving forward in a way that we can work collaboratively. And regardless of the pandemic, I think together we're all going to be stronger, and then helping our other neighbors and friends in the community. So thank you for that. Okay, so our fourth question is going to be with Kimber, Tatum, and Dorcas. And this one is, and there are some resources that we'll share as well, but what are free and low cost resources to support parent care? Kimber?
So just to kind of start off, I want to reiterate what everyone's been saying, that it is okay to not have a good day. It is okay to not be perfect. My son watches way too much Stinky and Dirty and Blippi than I would like to sometimes acknowledge at times, but it does allow me to have that break so I can be in a meeting. My baby, several people know from Zoom meetings, because she likes to look at all the faces. So it is okay to have things not be the same and still be productive and still be able to get what we need to done. Just in the interest of time, I'm going to set the link to the slide deck again, that we have resources, but I just want to highlight a couple of things. Our parent portal, we've done an amazing job with putting all these resources on the MDSU page, as well as our student services counseling page. And we also have a Google counseling site. We have resources through Mount Diablo Adult Ed that they will be updating even more for their spring schedule and calendar, but we have some great things that people don't know about. And I mean, I know about them because I work for the district and I try and share them, but I do have to say, the most important thing that I have gotten out of this pandemic and the change in things is I have the time to sit back and now support more people giving resources. So even though I'm not giving as much individual one-to-one on support, I'm able to work with a team and help support my schools and support fellow counselors and staff members and give them the tools so they can give that support. So even though we have less counselors, I have to point out that we are at a point now where we have resources at the tips of our fingers that we can go to now, and we can support each other working smarter, not harder. And it really has made me feel good that we're making a difference in more people. So even though it's been challenging, and even though you may be not getting the same direct support, I'm not getting the support necessarily I need all the time, but I have to look at then what can I do differently so I can have a better day, so I can have a better moment. And, I lose my temper, it is what it is. And then I try and figure out what can I do next time. Is it because I'm hungry, I'm tired usually? The joys of having a baby. So I will keep on putting the link in, but our parent portal on the MDC page is our friend, and we're going to keep on adding to this resource deck. And there's just so many wonderful things out there. And then again, my contact information, including my personal cell. I'm also a therapist, so don't be alarmed when you hear the message. I'm giving you my personal cell versus my Google number, and that is on the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. Tatum?
Thank you. So we do have the link for tonight's workshop, where we've mentioned a couple parent support self-care links. And one of them is the Child Mind Institute. And there are really great resources on there that are in English and Spanish. And there's a variety of themes that it covers. So it's the Child Mind Institute. And there is something that I didn't mention, but I'm just going to, because I saw in the chat, and I know Miss Wendy suggested that, any parent can really reach out to their child's counselor and build a rapport and get that support for sure. And just step out for 5 minutes and touch base with another adult if they are feeling alone. But something that helped me get through is still helping me get through this pandemic is it's something from Maria Menounos called Better Together, and she has it on YouTube, and she hosts different people there, like doctors, dietitians. I listed Patty Penn. She works with energy. She has people on like daily or every other day. And it's just like really a good sense of support, and it's free. It's on YouTube. So, so please check out our link with the resources we listed for tonight. But I do want to say that another one thing we can do that's free is acupressure points, pressing down on some of our acupressure points. So tonight I'm just going to share quickly one point called the Hand Valley point. Okay, so let's use our right hand. You can use your right or left. I seem to type a lot, so I have a lot of pressure on in my joints and hands, but it's between your thumb and your index finger, and really you're just pressing in there, and if you feel the soreness, then you're actually doing it right. They say to press on your pressure points for 2 minutes, and this spot can help with headaches, fatigue, pain relief. Okay. So it's just something you kind of have to find that little chunky part in there that is sore, and this really truly can help with headaches. It's something that you can do while you're talking to someone, even talking to my daughter. And since my daughter was little, I've been kind of just doing these little pressure points with her. So anyways, just another tip.
I'm going to keep doing it while I facilitate. Thank you, Ms. Tatum.
Sure.
All right, thank you. And Ms. Dorcas, is there anything you want to add to that?
Sure. I know I shared my story earlier, but I just want to drill in that a free resource is always going to be your family and your friends. And so if we could just reach out to our family to give us a hand, if, like I said, even if it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, or a friend, a family friend, we have to work together.
Thank you so much.
So that's all I wanted to say, that we should always look to our family and friends to help out.
Thank you. The link, oh yes, Natalie.
I just wanted to add to that too, to maybe reach out to your students' classmates' parents too. Just because they're probably feeling the same way that you do, especially if you have grade school, elementary school kids. I know my son, the thing he misses the most is recess. And so I've tried to find ways to recreate that. And what ended up happening was, now on Tuesdays, I'm at home. So on Tuesdays and Fridays, luckily, a few of my son's friends live in the neighborhood. They ride over on their bikes with their masks. We lay out blankets and they eat lunch together 2 times a week. And, while I'm facilitating that, his friends' parents are able to work without a kid in the house, or able to do some self-care too. And if we can trade, that can be an option too. So I just wanted to throw that out.
Great addition. Panelists, and Rochelle, any last minute?
I think because family friends are awesome, but sometimes that's not a resource. Right. And I know, like, for some people, they feel like reaching out to the school is restrictive. Like, if I say something to a teacher or a counselor at school, it's going to somehow get out. I know that's not true, but I know that's how some people feel. So reaching out to your medical providers, if at the very least, there's some crisis lines that are awesome that can give you a couple minutes of some immediate tools, some immediate release, because sometimes you just got to get the words out. Yeah. And so it's more important to get the care that you need. And before you get to a crisis time, tap into resources that are available to create a toolkit for yourself that says, when I feel joy, when I feel challenged, when I feel scared, these are some places that I can go. And if that includes a list of crisis numbers, then that's what it includes. But it's really important for you to create tools so that you're okay before you get to, or your kid gets to, a head spinning, screaming kind of moment.
Thank you. And I just in the chat, I believe Kimber added it on that parent resource. And usually the last slide of our webinars has been a very comprehensive parent resource of crisis numbers. So that is included in that slide deck that you will also see on the parent portal and the student services website. For the chat, Felicia or Wendy, any things that we need to address before we move on to the last 2 questions? We good? Okay, so we're going to go with question 5, and then we've got one more, and we're doing good on time. How do I know, and this is Sissy, Tatum, Mary, and Alita. How do you know when I need to seek help for myself? Sissy? Professional help for myself.
Okay, before I answer that question, what I really would like to do is, I think someone did it earlier already, is, normalize that you're going to have days that are great and days that are not so great. And if you have trauma, which a lot of us do, right, from our childhoods or for relationships that we thought were going to work out, but there were some other priorities going on, right? We may have some trauma from that. It's just normalizing how you feel and that it is okay to talk to someone. And I'll get to that later on. And I want to normalize therapy also, because I won't speak for everyone, but I know in my cultural upbringing, there was the saying, what goes on at home stays at home or stays in the family or whatever like that. And it's very important to continue the things that serve us as we move more into our adulthood. And it's very important to shift or change the things that don't necessarily serve us well now that we're adults. So for me, one of the ways to know that professional help is needed is, when you are not able to do your daily functioning, when you're so heavy and you can't come out of the heaviness, whether that's depression, which is a much deeper level of sadness, and you can't perform, your job, or you can't parent your kids, or you can't be that friend that you normally are. You can't exercise self-care. Like, you really can't do anything. Maybe you can just sleep. That's when you might need to talk to professional help. Other times is when you feel like you might want to hurt yourself, of course, or hurt others. And also understand that hurt people hurt others. So when we have unaddressed pain from that trauma or the past or even the present, and we're not dealing with that and we're not owning that that's present for us, in a lot of ways, we intentionally and unintentionally hurt others or neglect people that we really should be giving more of our time. So that's another way to for sure know that more help is needed. So that's definitely, for me, this pandemic has been bittersweet. I'll try to make this quick, but I do believe that there's power in your story. So that very story that you're afraid to share and that you're holding on to, because it is appropriate to keep certain boundaries, but then there are stories that will change lives, that the universe is pushing you to speak on it. And I think that timing is everything, and you'll know when the time is right, and you'll know the right person to share that with. So the pandemic for me has been bittersweet. So although I'm a counselor and I have a job and all that, we're doubled up. We're in a very small space, right? And so it has forced me to look at some things that I've learned more about my young adult children and my grandchildren. So one of the things that was shared with me is, and that came out in a conversation that could be deemed as trauma related, is like, Mom, you never listen to me. You never listen to me. Just listen. So that sounds like something really, really small, but it made a huge difference in my entire house and the relationship with my son and the healing that needed to happen. So I would encourage all of you to also, in this self-care, panel that we're having, really also reflect on, when you're at your best, asking yourself, am I also really listening to my child? Like really listening to them and hearing what they have to say. So
Thank you so much. Thank you, Sissy. Mary, would you like to add to that? Oh, sorry, Tatum. Sorry, Tatum and Mary.
Okay. Thank you, Sissy, for bringing that up. I just wanted to also, in my practice, I really try to teach my my students and their families. If you break your leg, what do? You go to the hospital, right? You get an X-ray, you get a cast, you go back 6 weeks later, and you have this treatment that you care for to get your leg back in shape. We go to the optometrist, we go to the dentist, but there's lots of stigma around the mental health component, and there's nothing to be ashamed of. So if some things come up and we're not in alignment and we're feeling out of sorts, that's a time to really kind of like pay attention to what's going on. So I just want to normalize that as well, is our mental health is just as important as our physical health, our eye health, our dental health. And just a quick, because I know in respect for time, just quickly, some red flags that may come up. And there's no shame here at all, but I'll just quickly go through. If any of our parents are feeling, or ourselves having a depressed mood most of the day, nearly every day, feeling sad, empty, or hopeless, a marked diminished interest and pleasure, going to the park or just walking down the street, we don't really feel like we have that motivation. If there's any significant weight loss or insomnia or hypersomnia, fatigue, loss of energy, feelings of worthlessness, inappropriate guilt. We don't need to carry around inappropriate guilt. So if you're finding that you have that and it's being carried around daily, no, let's get some interventions going to help. Any psychomotor agitation, like feeling slowed down, that's a sign of maybe some depressive symptoms. And diminished ability to think or concentrate is maybe a sign, and reoccurrent thoughts of death. So those, if you find that you're meeting some of those criteria, reach out. We will help with linking you up and supporting you in getting you connected to therapy for yourself.
Thank you, Tatum.
Sure.
Mary, I know you're going to add to that.
So they went over some of the criteria for seeking, one was the serious criteria for seeking mental health from a professional. There are times where it's imperative to seek mental health professionals, but for you or your family. But I also think that it makes sense to seek mental health professional at many times during your life for your family or yourself. We go to a mechanic to help our car stay in good shape. We see a physician for our yearly checkup. We go to a stylist to make our hair look good. We take care of ourselves, and that's what going to a mental health professional is. It's about self-care, and that's what this whole topic is about. And so there's nothing wrong with seeking advice from a healthcare professional to support you to raise your family to be the outstanding people you want them to be. We all need support during various transitions during our children's lives and our family lives. I mean, think about all the transitions that our young scholars have been going through, our families have been going through. Think about some of us that haven't been able to see our parents in over a year. These are tough times. Think about those of us that our children are going through huge transitioning to college, but aren't leaving our homes. They're still in our homes trying to go to college. We take classes before we want to learn a new skill or we want to start a new adventure. Shouldn't we be taking classes to be seeing a mental health professional before we can become parents? So these are all different reasons why you should be seeking help from a mental health professional. Therapy is beneficial both to the client and to their family. It teaches new skills, it teaches coping skills. And I personally think seeing mental health professionals can be an asset to both the client and the family throughout our lives. So I'm a big advocate for it.
Yes, not in just a response, but in proactive part. Yeah. And I know, Alita, you're going to be able to add to that for this last question or this question number 5.
Yeah, so I just like to thank all of the other panelists on here that have been sharing their stories so, so openly. And so nobody signed up for this one, so I was like, I'll do it. And so I've been thinking a lot about this, and this is a little bit redundant, but the big thing with this question is like, how do I know when I need it, right? Like as a parent, and especially as a mom, mothers always have some sort of mother's guilt, right? You know, and at some level, and like this year has really like put the pressure on for that mother's guilt, right? Like you're always going to mess up at some point in some way. And so the thing is that that stigma is so strong. Like we hear you, you know, I you know, as a professional as well, it's like, yeah, our minds say this is good. Yeah, it's normal. It's good. We can all do this. But to really take that step and do that is way beyond. It's a huge step to say I need help. And I would say, like, as a parent, I don't know for me what that level is yet, or what that, you know, breaking point is. And I think that the thing that excites me of what I'm hearing is that we don't have to wait for a breaking point. Right. And, you know, we can seek the professional help, you know, obviously, as we know already, through our schools, through our, you know, healthcare practitioners, but also some of the other awesome things is, you know, listening to stories, listening to book on tapes, going, you know, watching things that, you know, would help us with that practice and that guidance as like a stepping stone. And so there's a ton of resources for that. I think, like, for me, my personal barometer for if I'm, you know, really needing that intervention for myself is like my kids' well-being. And so, you know, if they're doing all right, I feel like, okay, I can get through this day, you know, like I can manage this. But also, like, growing, like my childhood, I grew up with a mom. You can hear the kids in the background. I grew up, you know, where my mother needed help and she didn't get it even to this day. And that has had long-term impacts on our relationship. And so, you know, when it does get to those extreme points, you know, trying that vulnerability, I think, is very valiant. You're being very brave when you say, you know, I, like, even for myself, looking in the mirror, like, I know that I'm being brave when I say I need somebody to help me right now. And that's a personal thing, right? You don't have to tell everybody who it is or what you're doing, but, you know, saying to yourself, yes, I do need help. And so as far as the professional, you know, that professional, if it's therapy or intervention or whatever, but pre-intervention, I would definitely just echo some of our other panelists that, you know, things like music, comedy, you know, laughing, anything that gets you laughing in your house is essential. Like, you have to find the joy in the misery. And if we don't practice that, then what will be the future of our human, you know, of our humanness, of our humanity. So finding humor, I think, is essential. And then lastly, just like something everyone's been saying that I'm just like, you know, you can't hear me, but I'm like, yeah, that's good, is knowing yourself. Whoever's listening, everybody has a different circumstance. Everybody is a unique person, right? So you have to, like, face yourself, and that's going to change. But knowing yourself is step one, because I think, Sissy, I think I relate to you. Like, we have a shared experience of, like, yeah, 9 o'clock is my bedtime, but 6 o'clock is more like my morning time. But that cup of coffee, I'll be good. And so all of us have these different things that we need to do to be healthy and strong for ourselves and others. And we all feel those moments where we're like, okay, this is an off day, and I'm going to name 5 reasons why.
Right.
And so, so as far as this question, that's, I think, what I
thank you so much. Thank you. I encourage those of you that are with us. We've got one more important question, and you know, there's so much great things to share, and I appreciate everyone telling their story. So we're just going to finish this last question, and this is going to go to Kimber, Alita, Shauna, Sissy, and Natalie. So we're going to be good. And the question is, what are the top coping tools and takeaway messages parents can use in terms of dealing with COVID stress? Kimber?
Okay, so we're each going to go over one, but mine is mainly about perspective. And the idea of having perspective is I've had to learn to know myself differently because I'm a total extrovert. I will talk to everybody. And my job, basically my calling, is to make everyone feel comfortable. And now I have to take care of myself. So that's been a big shift, especially as a runner who would get the social piece of being at races and volunteering and running, including with my son. I've had to take that perspective back of, okay, where can I still meet my needs? Where can I take care of myself? And really giving myself that grace that things are different and it's okay that they're different.
Thank you, Kimber. Mary? Oh, God, I did it again, Tatum. Wait, no, hold on. Kimber, Alita. God, guys, I was looking at the wrong question. God, your alls are like, I wasn't answering that. Okay.
So, I'll go quick. The descriptor said 3 takeaways, and I started with 3. I'm going to go quick.
Do 3. No, do your 3.
So first, as parents, and especially, I don't want to like encapsulate the concept of mom too much, but you know, we have a lot, right? We're the caregivers of our home, of our communities, and we're always last still, like, and so it's hard to break through that. But anyway, I've been kind of like reframing my role as mom as a facilitator in my house. With 3 children of very different ages and my husband who works far away. And so I kind of have embraced it as a good thing because and have had to let go of that guilt. Like, you know, you're not there for everything. And, you know, my kid is sad because he can't play and he's doing parkour all over my house and I'm going to go nuts. And then my toddler is potty training like all over. It's insane. But anyway, so when everybody has a job, right? When the family, each person in the family has a role to play that's not just gimme, do for me. When we're contributing back to each other, it is good. That's good. It helps everyone when we all give something and we get something. And so I think that's a shift in mindset for me is like definitely, you know, restructuring how we roll. And I think kids that, you know, are dealing with, you know, this lull, this sadness, which is happening in my house too. You know, there's those days where I'm just like, oh man. But when we all invest in something in our family, it's a good thing. And keeping busy with projects and whatnot, it's helpful to, you know, maintain us adapting to our own little walls of our house. It feels weird to go places. So anyway, so that's a long one, but humor, sleep is a big takeaway. Routine, gratitude, even the smallest things like a nice shower or, you know, when you get the cream right in the coffee and it's just like, And then lastly, that this is just the reminder, the daily reminder, affirmation, whatever it is, that this is temporary. You know, this will pass. Something else will come, but this will pass.
Thank you so much. Shauna?
So 2 things. I know a couple of people mentioned feeling lonely or they didn't have friends around. Facebook, there's some awesome Facebook groups and some are like Walnut Creek families. There's like Concord groups. What else am I thinking? MDUSD groups. And so there's all kinds of things. I mean, anything that you're interested in, you could probably find on there. And maybe that's, you know, once the kids go to bed, but you feel like you need to connect with people. It's a good place to start. I know lots of people who have developed relationships that way. And then, you know, what I mentioned before is make sure you're scheduling your time to relax and do what you need to do for yourself and not feeling guilty about it. Because and I'm not sure if everyone's like this, but I know I can feel people's energy. And so if your kids can feel that or other people in the house, then you know, it might affect them. And so it's important that if you feel more of that sense of calmness, then it might transfer into the whole energy of the house. So that is my takeaway. Thank you.
All right, we've got Sissy and then Natalie's going to close us up for the evening of this question.
I will
Sissy?
be quick because my 3 are all the same, because that's how passionate I am about it. Wellness partner, wellness partner, wellness partner. So I know that we're talking about building relationships and friends and things like that, and that's all important. But you must identify, even if it's somebody in the household, one person that you're going to have a conversation with that you trust, that you feel emotionally safe with, and who is not going to judge you. Okay. So a lot of times that's not someone in your house, that might not be sometimes your spouse or your mom or whatever, but you have to have somebody that you have that conversation with that knows you, really knows you. So they know when you're masking, they know when you are not yourself today and you're trying to mask it with something else, where you can check in with, right? But you guys can also have fun together and talk about anything and do things together. But it's very important. And at Bel Air, I've been teaching my students this in their classes, knowing how to identify how they're feeling. And they had to come back and talk about if they identified a wellness partner and did they have that conversation, and could they say, what does it mean to have a wellness partner? That is very, very important. So I'm going to push the ones who may feel like, well, I don't have anybody and I don't have, the family and I don't have this. I want you to push yourself to figure that piece out. And if it needs to be a therapist or a counselor, that's what it is. But isolating and not allowing yourself to have that human connection, and it doesn't have to be always about something sad or trauma, it could be something fun. But yes, you have to have that. And you can give yourself to someone else to be their partner as well.
Thank you so much, Sissy. And Natalie, you want to close us up for this question?
Wow, this is a big responsibility. No, I appreciate everybody. I've gleaned so much great information from this, and I just wanted to add my last pieces to it. One is just take it day by day. I find myself when I get overwhelmed thinking about, oh gosh, what's it going to look like next week or next month, or, what Alita said, when is this going to end? And I become overwhelmed. So bringing it back to the right here, right now, what can I do today to make today great, and set small goals, set achievable goals. Like, even if it's like, I'm going to make dinner tonight and that is going to be my crowning glory, is that I was able to make dinner tonight, and I can achieve it. But again, it's okay if we end up with frozen pizza again for the second night, and be able to forgive yourself when when your goal isn't achieved too, but to really, make sure that they're small, achievable goals, that you're focused on the now, has really helped. While Shauna has said, there are great social media and Facebook groups, I've also found that it's been wonderful to get off social media, and to remove myself from, certain, discussions or images, that, really, really can bring me down, and to really focus on the people in front of me, to get information firsthand instead of third hand. We're all stressed about school return, about what's going to happen at our school. And I think that, right now for a parent, that is a hot button issue, and to sometimes go on these websites can put you in a tailspin. So to really go to the source, go to your school, go to your principal, go to your counselors, not the third hand, fourth hand information, has really helped for self-care, for me. And lastly, just trying to have that growth mindset, and to really have that glass half full mentality of, being able to reframe just even simple things like, I can't do that. Well, I can't do that yet. It really does make a difference. And I know that the schools are really, and the teachers are really doing a great job with our kids, modeling that and teaching them that. but if we can reinforce that as parents, it really does help, and it helps us too. So those are my 3 things.
Well, thank you so much. I just wanted to first and foremost thank the panelists for taking this evening with us. I think it was a very well spent hour and a half. I want to encourage anyone who joined us live or who is watching us on record or replay to please use this as a form of self-care. Share this with somebody who you think might benefit from listening into the whole hour and a half or in portions of it. That is what it's here for. We know that we had about 100 people with us tonight. There will be thousands that are going to watch it over the next couple of months. So share this and then join us back in our next future panel, which is on March 30th. The dates will be available on the district website as always. And then we do have the resources that are available to look at. But we just wanted to thank you again for joining us tonight. And we wish you all well. And we know that truly the only way we're going to be able to serve our kids is through partnerships between our parents and our schools. And so we 100% are so thankful and grateful for our parents to join us on this panel and to our staff who've taken their time. So thank you again. And well wishes, everyone. You have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you back in the end of March.